So there are ways of thinking or reinterpreting or reframing situations so that we don't end up spinning in negative thoughts, waking up 3 in the morning, stressed out. What did I do to that person? Why are they treating me like this? Etc. So we actually create experimental tasks to get at all those different kinds of problems. So here, the white bars are baseline before any mindfulness meditation training. The black bars are 2.5 months later after 9 sessions of mindfulness meditation training. And what you can see is here, this is reacting to your own negative self-beliefs. It doesn't go too much down when you're just not doing any regulation, just reacting. So reactivity stays there. But what you can see here is for breath-focused attention, which is what we began with a few minutes ago, there's a significant reduction, down is better, less negative emotional reactivity to your own negative beliefs when you're using the breath-focused attention regulation. And also when you're doing distraction even at baseline was actually beneficial. Distraction actually works very well short term, but mindfulness did not enhance its ability, the black bar. It stayed the same. In terms of brain regions, when you're reacting to your own negative self-beliefs, there are these, what's in the red circle, these 3 different regions that make up what's called the midline cortical network that's associated with conceptual self-processing. So even right this moment, silently, when you just say your name to yourself, and when you begin to think about yourself, when you use words and ideas and images of yourself, this network is activated in milliseconds. It's an incredibly robust signal that indicates conceptual self-attention. When you're not engaged in self-focused attention, that network shuts off. So this is a very clear example where a person would not be able to report quickly enough being focused on the self or not conceptually, but the brain would. This is just to show you over the averaging over trials when you're reacting or spinning on your negative beliefs, to shifting to breath-focused attention, to then rating your negative emotion. This is the right amygdala. This is this brain region that's very important in emotion detection and emotion generation. And what we see is the solid line is pre. So we say when you're spinning on your own negative beliefs, the neural signal in the amygdala goes up, and then when you're asked to shift, it eventually comes down. Whoops. Fast forward 3 months, asking you to do the same task, what we see is that in this dotted line, there's an initial bumping up of reactivity in the amygdala when spinning on your own negative beliefs. So this is actually really important. So here, take this in. When you become more quiet and calm, you become a more emotionally flexible. How many people here have kids at home? Okay. Kids respond emotionally in milliseconds, but they also come out of it really quickly. They can shift. They're fluid, WD-40. Adults, if somebody says you're an asshole or says something nasty to you, you're going to be spinning and holding on to that for quite a while. What this is evidence of is that you can feel things, react, and then very quickly turn off. That's actually an index of health. Think about yourself in times and also your friends when you get sticky and stuck and ruminate and spin. That's inflexibility. This represents the ability to actually shift very rapidly. The brain is showing this. And I doubt that these people are even aware of their psychological flexibility.
What are the common reasons that make adults less flexible?
We become rigid.
Yeah, why?
To navigate the complexities of, that's a complex question, but a simple one beginning of an answer is that, bless you, to navigate the complexities of school, social interactions, work, we rely on algorithms, quick ones, that allow us to make quick changes and answers. Not necessarily the best solution, but the most rapid and sometimes functional. And we do become more and more rigid in our thinking. If you just think about cognitive perspective, if you have a blank slate and you can really see, and you're willing to shift, you can see things from many degrees. Right now, if you talk to your friends, your friends could probably say, oh, I know what kind of guy you are, because they actually see that you have a certain constrained space of how you respond to people, of what you do. And that's not a good or a bad thing, but it's recognizable. But it comes at a cost. And there is a negative bias in almost all of us. But it's actually protective. Is it scary to go out of the house out here? Right now, no. But in the past, it was, because there were tigers and lions and bears and thorns and bees. So actually people who are protective, that actually protected the species, and that's why human animals continue to exist. So there is something that's beneficial, but it comes at a cost of rigidity. And if you can figure out ways to undo that rigidity, that's a gateway into a more profound level of calmness and happiness. But it is functional, but it's not always beneficial. So just to say that mindfulness meditation improves 3 different kinds of emotion regulation that we looked at. Cognitive reappraisal, reinterpreting the meaning of something, mindful awareness, shifting your attention, and then also attention distraction. They all became more effective in turning down negative emotion. So that's why we use the analogy of WD-40. I want to shift to, I want to get to the next meditation because we have to stop in a minute. So summary so far, mindfulness meditation training in the presence of your own negative self-beliefs tones down emotional reactivity, both by self-report and brain response. It actually jacks up the ability to recruit parts of the brain that are important for top-down cognitive regulation, attention regulation, and what I didn't show you, but it also enhances your emotional, visceral experience. Instead of being emotionally numb, you actually feel more. But that's a good thing, because you feel it, and then you shift. So now, another little practice. So again, if I can have your attention, and I'm going to guide you through a very short practice. So if you could take a position of dignity in your chair. And so here, if you can just, again, you can either close your eyes or you can just bring your gaze down. And I'm going to guide you through a short practice that has to do with looking at yourself. So first, bring your attention to your breath. Actually, let your attention or awareness sink down into your breath, literally feeling the sensations with each inhalation and each exhalation. Letting the mind rest on the sensation of your breath. And now what I'd like you to do in your mind's eye, bring up an image of yourself from about 5 or 10 years ago. An image of yourself from about 5 or 10 years ago. And what I'd like you to notice is, in response to the question, who was that person? What were the qualities of that person, myself, 5, 10 years ago? Notice what adjectives appear in your mind to describe who was that person. What was he or she like? Notice what adjectives arise in your mind to describe yourself from about 5 or 10 years ago. And now shifting to the present, now, the person that's seated in the chair this moment. Who is this person? How would you describe this person's qualities? Strengths, weaknesses. What adjectives arise in your mind to describe who you are now? And now shifting into the future, 10 years from now, imagining who you are. What adjectives arise in your mind to describe who you will be 10 years from now? Okay, now take a deep breath. And just for a moment, in your mind, contemplate the following. Which version of myself, past, present, future, the version of myself just before I die, which version is more accurate? Which version is more real? Which version of myself is more valid? Okay, now take another deep breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So the network that you were just activating is this midline cortical structures. Ventral medial, prefrontal cortex, dorsal medial, posterior cingulate. When you do conceptual, self-focused attention, there's an actual circuit that serves as the neural substrate to be able to even think about yourself. So by show of hands, if you're comfortable, which version of yourself was more negative? Past? Did people notice more negative adjectives arising in your mind when you thought about yourself in the past? The present? The future? There we go. This represents the positive bias. Remember we were talking about a negative bias that makes us more rigid? There's a positive bias about the future, including our view of ourselves. And there tends to be a more negative view of ourselves even in the past, and carries into the present. So you just represented what tends to be a very strong finding. All of this, the way that you think about yourself, the ability to think about yourself, all exists in brain circuits that we can observe. So imagine dropping into a non-conceptual state of mind where you're not engaged in thinking about yourself. We would see the absence of neural activity in this brain circuit. Simply put, I'm going to show you this bias. 43 healthy controls. The white bar represents how many words you endorse as self-descriptive that are positive. Healthy adults, about 90% of words that we gave them out of 25, they say, yeah, that describes me. Negative words, negative social qualities, insecure, weak, etc. Very, very few. Adults with social anxiety disorder, very, very prevalent anxiety disorder that we happen to study, it's about 50-50. Positive, negative self-view. That's already depressing.
What was the first section?
The white bars represent positive social traits. Strong, independent, confident,